Hello, and welcome to Big Sound, Small Town. I'm your host, Sandy Carlton. The small towns and communities of Cleveland County, North Carolina have long been a hotbed of music in all its many forms. Several Cleveland County musicians have found commercial success and critical acclaim in the music industry. Yeah, everybody knows that Earl Scruggs, Don Gibson, Patty Loveless, and Alicia Bridges are from Cleveland County. Donald Byrd too. So this is not a podcast about them. This is a podcast about the musicians who are still here that keep music alive here. This is the stories, and you need to know them and know the people who are making the music. This is not your normal podcast. The song you just heard is Ric Delozier, The Thing About Flying Is, from his album Heart and Soul. And he is my guest today on Big Sound, Small Town. Today on Big Sound, Small Town, my guest is guitar hero, guitar teacher, sideman, and band leader, Ric Delozier. How you doing, Ric?
How you doing, Sandy? I'm glad to be here.
Well,
man.
I'm glad to have you here. You're a busy man. I didn't know if I'd ever catch up with you or not.
Well, we try to stay busy.
Well, this has been a long musical journey for you.
Yes.
I mean, I've been here since the 70s, and I've heard your name ever since I've been here. You know, Ric Delozier plays with so-and-so. You know, I mean, you played all over this town, probably more than anybody in this town.
Wow. Yeah, for me, it's just, I love the instrument. I fell in love with the instrument, playing guitar, going all the way back to 1965 when I was 4 years old. I remember it well. My sister was watching one of the dance programs. I don't know if it was American Bandstand or one of those. And there was a black and white reel of Chuck Berry doing Maybelline.
Yeah.
And I grabbed up the little brooms that we used to have for the fireplace.
Yeah.
When I was 4 years old. I grabbed that broom up, and that was my guitar until Christmas that year. Okay. And I got my first guitar.
You remember what it was by chance?
It was just a cheap little old acoustic. Right. And about 4 years later, I got the opportunity to go with my uncle and play bluegrass, square dance music at Cat Square in 1969.
That's pretty wild.
And I've done that for about 3 years.
So you see, you haven't always been that shredding electric guitarist. No. At some point you were a bluegrass.
Yeah.
Country.
And loved it.
Yeah.
And loved bluegrass, loved all styles of music.
Right.
And then when I was 11, I met who still to this day, and we stay in touch, was a hero of mine, Jackie Potter.
Yeah, Jackie.
Lived down the road from me, and I was out on the front porch playing. And Jackie came and literally pulled in the yard and got up on the porch and said, "Boy, let me show you how to tune that thing." And he tuned my guitar to an open tuning.
Yeah.
And started sliding one finger around.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, that's how I figured out a slide player was doing open tunings when I saw him do that. But through Jackie and James Crosley, those two guys, all through my teenage years, they helped me get work with whatever bands I was in. They would get me bookings, and
Yeah,
any
they were a
help
big
I
force
needed.
around here for a long
Oh
time,
God,
too.
yeah, and anything I could go to them with any problem, any question.
Right.
I never will forget when I was in high school. I crawled through the window at the Roxy in Charlotte
Oh, yeah.
because they wouldn't come to the door. It was during the day.
Right.
And I crawled through the window, and the bouncers caught me. They were
Right.
in there cleaning up. And they took me to Paul Scoggins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know.
And Paul said, what are you doing? And he said, well, I want my band to play here. And
That's a pretty good promo. I mean, that would sell me.
he booked me.
Yeah. I mean, that would work for me if I was a
And
promoter.
Then he said to me, he said, I want you to come this weekend because I want you to see what we expect out of you.
All right.
And I went. And the band that was playing was a band from Louisville, Kentucky called Buster Brown.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of remember when they were around.
They had a 20-foot trailer pulled by a Peterbilt. And they had gear. Oh, man, they had gear. And I left that club that night, and I went to James, and I said, James, I messed up. I got a booking at the Roxy, and we ain't got nothing. And James got wound up getting all the equipment. He got John Stewart to bring his PA down there. Somebody he knew that had a light show that come. I mean, so the guys that were older than me always helped me out.
That's good. That's the way it should be.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's a hand-me-down business.
It is a hand-me-down
really
business, yeah.
So I spent my high school years playing mostly with Don Roberts and Chris Ramsey and Bruce Camp. We had a little band called Rocks.
What were y'all playing rock and roll then?
We were playing rock and roll. We were doing AC/DC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We played the barn a lot down in Gaffney.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We were lucky enough to play P.B. Scott's in Boone.
Oh yeah, beautiful venue at the time. That was a great place, yeah.
We opened up for a couple of bands up in Boone at that time. We actually opened up for George Thorogood and the Delaware Destroyers.
Oh yeah, that would have been the early version.
The early version of the band, and before they made it big, and we got the opportunity to open up for the Dixie Dregs there as well.
Yeah.
You know, it was just,
Pretty
and
big
once
time.
again, that was all people older than me that were already in the business around here helping out. You know.
That's great.
Yeah.
So then what happens? You know, you're in high school, you're just getting out of high school, you're playing music. When does it step up another notch?
John T-Tac.
Okay, old John.
I was working with a guy named Danny Williams out of Greenville, North Carolina. We would go out and play Wilmington on the weekends, or Greensboro, or Greenville.
Right.
And I ran into John T-Tac in 1979.
That was at the height of his booking
And
time.
he was a slick talker.
Yeah, he's a slick talker, all right. Yeah.
And he was one of those guys, he'd come up, put his arm around me, and he said, I'm going to make you the next Jimi Hendrix. You know? And I fell for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I wound up working with T-Tac for about 7 years. And
That was all up and down the East Coast, I know. And
all up and down the East
Mississippi.
Coast. And he also, later on, the last couple of years I worked with John, he leased me, traded us with another band.
Oh, yeah.
With a guy that was booking the Midwest called Ed Trejo. And we went up and done Minnesota in January. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, no.
Wisconsin and that area. January, February, March, you know, we spent 3 months up there freezing to death.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
But after my experience with T-Tac, I actually got the opportunity to go to the Musicians Institute.
Okay. Yeah, tell me about that.
It was a tough experience in the sense that I ate ramen noodles every day. I starved to death in Los Angeles. I just literally starved to death out there. But as far as it was a turning point for me as a musician because of all of the knowledge that I attained through the seminars, through the library that they had there, which was an early computers back then were nothing like they are now. But they had a library that was like on computers, and you could go study all these lessons and everything, and it opened up a lot of doors for me, and taught me a lot about theory, music theory, and the application of music theory,
And I guess
some of the seminars with guys like Al DiMeola, Frank Gambale, Vinnie Moore.
yeah,
You know, for years I had a little cassette. Back in the day, we used to have the small cassettes
Right.
that went into
Oh, yeah.
dictation
Dictaphone.
machine.
Yeah.
And I had actually taped the Vinnie Moore thing, and I would go back and listen to that
All
for
right.
4 or 5 years after I'd done that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
To learn more and more. It seemed like every time I listened to it, I'd learn something.
Well, I take it during this time you're doing a lot of woodshedding. I mean, just sitting there with no life other than practicing music, playing music.
Play. Yeah, you know, I've said this before. It started when I was about 8 or 9 years old. 6 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean,
It's 6 hours a day.
you can
me.
tell that in your playing. I mean, you can tell that you not only do you have the talent, but you have the knowledge, which sometimes is not the same. You know,
Yeah.
you got the theory to go along with
Right.
the talent, and people don't realize that talent alone is not enough. It's the hard work, and people don't see. That's part of the reason we're doing this. People think, yeah, man, Rick just always knew how to play. Well, at some point, he spent some time working at it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I figured out early on, a lot of people when they say they practice, they pick up a guitar and they play songs that they know.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know, back in the '70s, it might be Bad Company.
Right.
You might know a bunch of Bad Company
Right.
tunes or some Ted Nugent or something like
Right.
that. So they would pick up the guitar and they would do that. What I chose to do was scales,
Right.
picking exercises, the things that I couldn't do.
Right.
Was what I wanted to work on 6 hours a day.
I had to do that to learn to cross pick on an acoustic guitar for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than just strum. You know, I'd sit there trying so hard to get that right. You know.
Yeah.
So, but people don't see that. You know,
No.
they miss that part of it.
No. And the big thing about the theory, and I always tell people this, it's not so much that you're going to learn something new, as much as it is that you're going to put a name to something that you already know.
True.
Because a lot of people, when you teach them 7 fundamental modes or all the different things that can be done with the pentatonic scales, it's not that they all already know these scales. They just don't have a name to them,
Right.
and they don't know where you can and can't
Can
use them.
use them, yeah. Over what they can use them and what they can't.
You get
yeah.
some ground rules that way, you know, which makes it easier to improvise.
It does make, and that's where you learn to improvise.
Yeah.
That, and then once you learn that, you learn. Then the other stuff comes because you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you put that time in, it becomes. You can develop it yourself then.
Right. Well, eventually it becomes, for me, first of all, for me, I never looked at guitar as a competitive thing.
Right.
In other words, I'm
be.
not better or worse than anybody else. It's not like that.
Right.
Guitar is expression.
It is.
You're playing what you're in your head. It comes from your head, your heart, goes through your hands.
It does. I agree.
And so if you look at it like that, it's like painting a picture. It's the same thing as being an artist. The song is a canvas. The guitar or the bass or whatever instrument you play is a brush. And you're applying the color. You're applying it to that canvas.
Right.
So now you're getting into what you hear in your head. So what I hear in my head and what you hear in your head and what somebody else hears in it, those are all apples and oranges.
Right.
So I can't say I'm better than Sandy.
Oh yeah, I got you.
know,
Yeah.
Because it's expression.
It is.
It's expression. That's all
Music
it
shouldn't be a
is.
competition.
It is not a
You know,
competition.
yeah, I agree totally. We see eye to eye on that totally. It's
Yeah.
it's just it's what it is. Yeah. So all right, you get through there. You come back from there with some knowledge. What happens then?
I started really getting into writing and recording. Myself and Albert Ford put a band together called Ichabod Crane.
Yeah, I remember that band.
And we recorded an album at Pyramid Studios. Tony Cook's old place up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I know Tony.
And so that was really, I had done some recording before at Country Road Studios in Marion. Old Fred Rumfeld used to let me come up there and just do whatever I wanted to do.
Oh, that's good. I mean, well, there's nothing like getting comfortable in the studio.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. And then Albert and I was the thing with Ichabod Crane, myself, Albert, Terry Armour, and Stevie Umpers.
Yeah.
Stevie and Terry, I think they were like 17 years old.
Yeah, they had to be pretty young.
They were young then.
Yeah.
And but it was a further experimentation for me of learning how to record and how to write a good song.
And what kind of, was this, were you doing original stuff then?
We were doing all original stuff, and it was very progressive hard rock.
Right.
You know. And after that,
I mean, you pretty much made a name for yourself around here during that time as the progressive hard rock player, you know?
I never knew that.
Yeah, oh yeah, your name was everywhere. You know, you were the king rock guitarist around here.
Yeah, I never knew that. I never kept up with anything like that. I honestly, and still to this day, and you and I have kind of talked about this before we done this show, I'm pretty much an introvert.
Right, yeah.
You know,
I understand that.
I've spent a lot of time playing 5 nights a week, 7 nights a week on the road, and for me, I've been out enough.
Right.
You know.
Oh yeah.
So when I'm home,
I do know that.
when I'm home, I like to be at home. You
Right,
know.
I do.
I like to spend time with my dogs, and I like
Right.
to spend time watch a little bit of TV, come in here and record. I still come in here and work recording, writing, 6-7 hours a day, 8 hours a day. That little plastic container over there has got 32 cards in it. There's an album on every one of them that has yet to be put out.
Well, that's, you know.
So that's, you know,
I do
my passion.
understand that. I write songs still to this day. I don't know that anything will ever happen with them. Don't
gotta
really
get 'em
care.
out.
Don't really care though, but they got to come out.
They
of
got to
me.
come out. Yeah,
You
they
know?
got to come out.
So I mean they may sit on a disc somewhere years after I'm gone, but
Yeah.
but still you got to get those things out.
You got to get them out of your head.
You do.
And so I was basically just doing that. And then in 1991, I had just finished playing with a group called Dangerous Angel. Basically, the only job we ever done was we played at the American Legion in Kings Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
For a year.
Yeah.
And so that had split up. You know how bands are.
I do.
They're
They run their
short-lived.
life. Yeah, they do.
And I was actually at my mother's house, and Cecil Potlow
Yeah.
called me from Norfolk, Virginia. And he said, would you like to play with the Ohio Players? And I said, sure, I'd be glad to.
Yeah.
And he said, well, run out and get the Ohio Players' greatest hits,
Right.
because that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And I was okay. All right.
Now
He
that's a
said-
change in style
Yeah.
greatly. You
Yeah.
know?
And he said, when we get to Charlotte, we're going to pick you up. I'm like, okay. So sure enough, my first job with them was at the old Coliseum in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I spent 9 months, 7 days a week
With them.
playing with them. And at that time, there were like only 3 of the original members left.
Right.
Leroy Bonner and Chet, and Kenny Petty, I think, was with them still
Right.
at that time. But there were 2 guys from Shelby
Yeah.
in the band already,
Oh, already besides.
besides me, Cecil
Yeah.
and Stevens, Bobby Stevens.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Bobby
yeah.
Stevens
Yeah.
was playing keyboards.
Oh, okay.
And I went with him.
Ah.
So we spent 9 months doing that, and it was very, it was my first experience with a big name band,
Right.
and I had all these illusions or delusions, I should say, of what it was going to be,
Right.
and those 9 months taught me a lot, because that band didn't have PA, it didn't
yeah.
have lights. We came in with our guitars. You provided the back line
Oh, yeah.
and everything for that band.
Right.
I never knew what kind of amp I was going to be playing on.
True.
We never knew what kind of monitor system we were going to be looking at. Sometimes it was great. Sometimes it was horrible.
Right.
But the one thing that always happened, those guys nailed it every night.
Oh, that's great. That's the way it's supposed to be.
And
Professionals all the way.
It took me back to something that John T-Tac told me in 1981. He set me down one time and he said, listen, somewhere right now there's a kid sitting on the side of his bed playing guitar. And for this brief moment in time, he is the greatest guitar player in the world. But the difference between him and the Steve Vais of this world,
Right.
so to speak, the big name guitar
Right.
players, they can do it when the bell rings.
True, that's
It
true.
don't matter what you give them.
This is true.
It don't matter what equipment they're on. They'll do it. And with the players, I saw that firsthand.
Right.
Guys that have been in the business a lot longer than me, different style of music from
Totally
anything I
different.
was
Yeah,
used to.
it was. Yeah.
But just their ability to pull it off. I mean, they could do a show to a 400-seat place, and it was the same show they done at the New Orleans Jazz Fest that
Yeah.
year to 160,000 people.
Right. Right. That's great. I mean, that's how professionals do it.
Yeah.
The ones that survive it and do well, that's how they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty good experience.
It was. And immediately after that, I was able to get into the business of doing some, a lot of session work on guitar.
Right.
So I was able to do a lot of background music for commercials and so forth like that. In 1997, I hooked up with Ronnie Quistnut,
Yeah.
and I spent 21 years with Crimson Rose.
That's a long time.
And I would play with them on Friday and Saturdays. And along about 2010, I started working other nights of the week with other bands.
Right.
And I got back to working for a company at that time. They're defunct now, but I was working with a company called Star Tracks out of Atlanta, Georgia. It was belonged to Paul Grumman.
Okay.
If anybody knows who Bernie Grumman is,
Right, yeah, I do.
from A&M,
Yeah.
it was his son.
Okay.
And we were doing backing tracks for General Motors, Mary Kay Cosmetics. We done a couple of A&E documentary
Right.
things that were background music for them, so forth.
Was that fun?
Yes, it was.
I'm sure. I mean, that looks to me like that would be fun.
It was. It was challenging. It could be challenging because you would go in and get these sheets of music of
Right.
what you were going to play an hour before you walked in there to do
Oh
it.
yeah, that is challenging.
So if you didn't know how to read music, you had a problem.
Right.
And they were very demanding on you about more so on people that done voiceover work and vocal work and stuff like
Right.
that. But it was good. We got to work at some fantastic studios like the Blue Room in Atlanta.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
You know, Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We done BJ music down in Orlando, Buffalo. I mean, you know, we got to travel around. All the GM commercials were cut in Buffalo, New York. But and I really enjoyed that. And through that, I managed to meet David Grissom,
Oh yeah.
the Continental Club.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah.
My Paul Reed Smith's
Exactly.
laying right there in that case.
Yeah. I saw. That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
That's why I play Paul Reed Smith. I played with Ronnie on Friday and Saturday nights, and I would do sometimes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with David. Sometimes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with David.
Right.
And David is sponsored by Paul Reed Smith, and he just had Paul Reed Smiths everywhere. And
He was the first person I saw playing one.
yeah,
And I mean, he could probably play anything, but he certainly made those Paul Reed Smiths sound wonderful.
well, there's nothing like them, man. They play themselves. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
They're a fine guitar, no doubt. I mean,
You can see I've got a Satriani
yeah.
custom over there behind
yeah.
you. I've got Schecter laying
Oh, yeah.
here. I've owned Strats over the years.
Yeah, I've
Les
seen you
Paul.
playing those Strats.
And I always loved Strats. I've got a picture in my phone when I was 15 years old playing a 57 Les Paul Gold Top. I will put that Paul Reed Smith in that case up against anything I've ever played.
That's great.
I love them.
Well, you couldn't have played with a better person to be a representative of that than he.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
really good. He still is really good.
And
Okay, I'm back here with Ric Delozier. We're talking music. What happens next in your life?
well, while I was still playing with Ronnie and them, I decided that I wanted to. For years, I had written guitar instrumentals, but I had never recorded them.
Right,
And I just didn't think anybody would care about them,
right.
you know. And so in 2012, 2013, right in there, I recorded the first solo Delozier album with
Right.
me playing bass, guitar.
Oh, you were playing it all?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
Did you play drums on that thing too?
actually, I'll tell you what I've done. I hate to admit this. I'm not able to play drums as a drummer.
Right, I understand that too.
But-
I can do that.
If I do one take playing kick drum and snare,
Right,
and then go back and add the hi-hat, and then go back and add the rolls,
Yeah.
and then go back and add the cymbals,
I understand.
I'm a drummer.
Right, well, I mean that works. I mean, you know, it's the same effect.
Well,
I mean-
in the end, you can't tell the difference.
No, you
know.
can't. You can't.
But I'm not actually, to be honest with you, I'm not coordinated enough to play drums.
Oh, I can't do it
I
either.
don't see how they do it.
I mean, I can do it a little bit, and I've done one man things where I've used a kick drum and a hi hat and that, but then I don't know what to do. The rest of it I can't.
So the early Delozier stuff, it would either be actually a couple of the tunes off of the first CD. There's some programmed drums in this Digitech pedal here
Right.
that I used
Yeah, well-
on a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I've done that for a while. Now I own Superior 3.0,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is a
okay,
programmable
yeah, right.
drum deal.
Right.
But 2012 we done the first Delozier CD, and
Did you go out and back that up playing it?
no,
Okay.
I didn't. I just put it out on the internet and didn't really. I think I made a couple of videos for the first one, but it was basically just I went and put it on 1,820 internet radio stations.
Oh yeah. Okay, that helps.
So I realized that most of the internet radio stations would have 50 to 100 people.
Right.
So I knew I had to have a lot of them.
Yeah, that's good. That's
So
a good theory.
It's kind of hard to keep up with that database
Right. Yeah.
and everything. But we got to where we have some FM stations.
Oh, okay.
We're on FM in Australia, for
Right.
instance. We're on FM in Germany. We're on FM in Canada.
Right.
We've got an FM station in Peru that plays our
that's
stuff.
pretty cool.
We've got an FM station in Brazil.
Well, that makes it. I mean, the one good thing is it's instrumental music, so it's universal.
right,
Doesn't matter. You don't have to understand a language.
right.
I mean, good instrumental music knows no ethnicity or no race. I mean,
Right.
it's
It's a universal
It
language.
is a universal
It's a universal
language.
language. And I'm up to the fifth one now. Along the way, between 2012 and now, there was one CD that I done with a gentleman out of Germany that's probably one of the greatest singers in the world. His name is Andreas Blyer. And one of my CDs is called Battle of Forevermore. He sang on 5 songs.
Oh, okay.
And then I've done 5 instrumentals.
How did you find him?
It was the result of being on all these radio shows.
okay.
Just being on all these radio
He
shows.
contacted you then.
And he contacted me on Reverbnation.
That's great.
One of the things that I done in 2012 when I started doing the instrumentals, I put together a Reverbnation page.
Right.
And I hired somebody that knew what they were
How to
doing to
do
run
yeah.
it.
Right.
And Kevin Dunham.
Yeah.
And Kevin's been with me since 2012.
Oh, that's
and
good.
Right now, we have been #1 in the world as an instrumentalist on Reverbnation for 7 years. And that's all him. It's not me. That's all him.
I mean, it does help to surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah. It's his effort that makes that happen. And so it's one of those things that's each CD has progressed more and more. I've gotten better and better at it. Back in 2017, I decided that, for instance, that the 4th CD I done, I needed to do some more mellow stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I pretty much done a CD that was a mixture of just more laid back material.
Right.
In general, a little bit of jazz,
right.
On some of them. And when I done this last one, which is 5, it's called 5, Delozier 5. I just went full bore.
Right.
Going all the way back to the Ichabod Crane type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go back to my roots now,
right.
and I'm going to do what I do best.
Right.
And I had I'd really, worked on programming drums and worked hard on playing bass and worked hard on coming up with new things on guitar.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Things that would be, things that would pop.
Right, I understand.
And I done it and done that CD, and lo and behold, we got signed by Dr. John's Surgery Records out of England. And right now, the CD's been out 3 months. We're doing great.
That's great.
We're doing great. We've got one of the songs is ranked #8 right now in Sydney, Australia, on Valley FM 89.5. So
hard work pays off.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, this is what you've dedicated your whole life to music, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely. There was never a time in my life I'm almost ashamed to admit this. There's only been one time in my life I punched a clock.
That's great.
And I was 15 years old. And I have never I've done this. I've raised my children doing this. I've paid my bills doing this. Now, the difference between those of us that are musicians, you got to be a go-getter.
You do? Oh yeah. Yeah.
You can't turn down no work.
No, you can't.
And today when you wake up, I've got a choice. I'm either going to go play and make money, or I'm going to starve.
That's true.
And that is one of the greatest motivators.
It is a motivator, no doubt.
When you know you got to pay your rent, you got to get groceries, and you got to buy your kids' school clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is motivation beyond anything.
Yeah, I agree totally. And that's why you've also kept progressing, getting better and better at changing with the times, so to speak, too. Because you got some different projects going on now too, don't you?
I do. Some guys that I was actually teaching. I was just working with them teaching, and we wound up putting a band together called the Turbulence Society, and I love it. You can see on the posters we do a blend of classic rock, we do funk, we do R&B, we do soul, we do blues, we do a little bit of everything but hip hop and rap.
Right.
That's the only thing we don't do,
Yeah.
And we'll even break out some jazz for you.
Well, that's great. I mean, that is really.
And I love playing with those guys. They're great guys.
They're young too, aren't
They're young. 2 of them are 22 years old, and the other one's 32 years old.
See, and that's how you stay young, and that is also how you stay involved in the music business.
Yeah.
I mean, you change with it. You learn with the young people.
And they really, I mean, they run the band. They set the tempo. I let them do,
Right.
They come in and they say, hey, I'd like to do so and so. Well, okay, let's do it.
Right.
We'll try it.
That's great.
And if you go out there and you play it and it hits and it pops, okay, we'll keep doing it. If it don't, guess what? We'll drop it.
We'll drop it.
Yeah, no harm done.
Yeah.
The great thing, it's like I told you before we started, the great thing about these guys is the friendship, the brotherhood that I've developed with them. The way we can get together and watch a football game on Sunday, hang out and eat.
It don't have to be just music.
It don't have to be music.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bunch of guys hanging out.
Yeah.
And I've been in so many bands where if you weren't the guy at the table, you were the one being talked about.
True. Oh, yeah, I've been there.
You know,
yeah,
everybody loves backbiting and power struggles.
Bands
and
people that haven't been in bands don't realize how dirty the business can be.
Yeah, it can.
And why bands don't last a long time. They were great. How come they broke up? Well, you had to be there. I mean,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's always somebody.
Always.
Somebody's wanting to get their friend in the band, wants to get rid of so-and-so so they can get their friend in the band so they'll have more power in the band and they can get done what they want to do and they'll be running the band and all that, you know. And, And this is one of those things where we just love what we're doing.
That's great.
And everybody loves each other.
You're a lucky man there.
Yeah,
those are few they're few and far between where you can have a brotherhood outside of the music.
Yeah. Now, I've got a lot of guys that I've played with over the years, and I'm sure you do too. One thing about it, if you travel on the road with anybody,
right? Oh yeah,
5, 6, 7 nights a week, you're a brother.
There you are. I mean, that's a lifelong thing because you share stuff that I have to be careful here, but people that aren't musicians don't understand musicians.
No.
They don't understand. And this is another thing I kind of hate to say, but generally, musicians like musicians better than they like other people.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and animals.
Yeah.
So
it's really is. I mean, I've played with guys that if I could have played with them on the weekends alone, just playing Friday and Saturday and nothing else, and I would never have learned near as much about them. Because it's easy to hide who you are.
Oh, it is.
When you just show up on the weekend.
Yep, it is.
But when you're 7 nights a week and you're traveling across the country and the only people you have are the people you're in that bus with or the people you're in that van with.
And doing laundry with them. People miss that stuff. You know. People miss the...
You learn everything about each other.
Yeah, you do.
You learn you can't hide it.
No, you can't. And it's one of those things. People don't see that either. They see you roll in, but they don't see you not sleeping or sleeping 5 and 6 in a van or a room, and they don't see you washing your clothes, and you know, they don't see that stuff.
That used to be the big dilemma, you know.
Yeah.
Where are we going to wash our clothes?
Oh yeah,
we got to find a washer at. You know, we ain't washed clothes in a week. We got to find a washer.
Oh yeah, that's another thing too. You know, people say, "I'm a musician, man," but I've never been to a Waffle House. You ain't a musician, man. No. I mean,
or the buffet.
Oh yeah,
cheapest place in town.
Place you can go. Oh yeah, I mean,
find a buffet, man.
Yep. Oh yeah, they miss. I mean, it's a side of life that I guess is good they miss because most people couldn't do it. Yeah.
I always thought it was funny because I've done more work out of town than I have actually in town.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was funny because, you know, you can go play in town and you're really not that big of a deal.
I agree. And you know, it's a shame that it's that way. That's part of what this whole deal is. People need to know that there are people here that are real musicians. These people that I have on this show, they're better musicians than you are. You know, I mean, then you'll pay somebody twice as much as you'll pay one of these people, and these people will be every bit as good or better than the person you're bringing in.
Yeah,
but you're the local person.
You're the local guy, and they know you.
Yeah, they know.
They went to high school with you.
Exactly.
They know you can't be all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then when you leave here and you pull into town, it can be a little town like we were talking earlier, Little Whiskey, Georgia.
Exactly.
You're a hero.
Exactly.
I mean, these guys are pros. They're coming from out of town.
Oh yeah.
And you get top dollar, and they treat you like a king.
I've never understood that. Though. Doesn't matter where you're local at. Doesn't really matter the city. Maybe a big city, it doesn't matter. But anything that's not very big, you're always the local guy, and you're always going to get passed over.
I know him.
I know him. He can't be that good. If he's that good, why is he still here? Well, some people choose to stay here. You know, I mean, some people aren't. There's 100 reasons that the musicians are here.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of good ones here. I mean, we are lucky that there is a lot of good musicians here.
We're lucky. I mean, I can just start naming Ace Spillback, James Crosby, Jackie Potter. I can just start naming guys, and it goes on and on and on. This area has Alan Biggerstadt.
Yeah,
This
another
area
one.
has been blessed
Oh, it has.
with good musicians.
And there's a lot of new young ones
And
here
you
too.
young ones, and I'm just now learning about some of these guys like Chris Faree.
Oh yeah, Chris
and,
Faree, yeah.
And we were talking about Derek McCoy
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
And
I mean, there's a lot of
for me playing with Nikeo on drums,
right,
Nikeo
exactly.
Wallace.
Yeah.
I have learned a lot about guys that he's running around freelancing.
Well, hell, he does. He plays with a lot of people
He plays
too.
with everybody. He's like
Yeah.
I used to be.
Yeah,
he
he is.
just
He's
pay
the-
me, I'll be there.
He's the go-to drummer these days.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
But I've learned Dan Staten, I believe
Yeah,
is his name.
yeah.
There are just a lot of really good musicians around.
There are.
That's good.
Always
that,
has been.
That warms my
Mine
heart.
too. And that's the whole premise of this podcast. Hey, Cleveland County's got as good a musicians as you'll want to find per
As
capita
anybody.
anywhere.
As anybody.
I mean, we've had some famous ones, but guess what? We got some that should be famous here.
Yeah.
You know,
Just good pickers and,
Yeah.
and good players.
They are.
We've always been really fortunate
have.
there. Good drummers.
good drummers.
We've had some good drummers.
We've had
Philip
some really
Grigg.
good. Oh, Philip. Yeah, Philip.
And everybody knew Philip.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
Pat Mahaffey that's
Oh,
on the wall
yeah,
up there.
yeah.
Played with me for
Oh,
years and years.
There's been a ton of good ones around. Good. There's been, and then you could do a whole podcast just on bluegrass players from around here.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I mean, that'd be a whole different show.
yeah.
And then then you have like even the Alicia Bridges, that deal happened around here, and there's some good R&B being played around, some good gospel. You know, I mean, it's a lot of good people.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good area to be in. We've always been located in a good area because we can go to Asheville, we can
True.
do Charlotte,
Yeah.
we can do Spartanburg, we can do Greenville.
Yeah. It's
We're
a good location
you can stay within 2.5-3 hours.
and play.
That'll get you all the way to Asheboro.
True. Well, these days there are some places to play locally. For a long time, there wasn't that many. We always
I
had to
know.
go someplace.
I know.
There's a few. I mean, we could use more, but I mean,
I really enjoyed because I had a girl here from Russia that played violin, and we done a CD together.
right?
Diana Netcheva, and I actually went and played the Dragonfly.
Oh, when she was up there.
Yeah.
I saw she was there. I played fiddle, violin. I kept wanting to. Every time she was there, I had a job, but I wanted to see it. I didn't know you were playing with her.
Yeah, and we've got a CD. I'll give you a CD
Okay.
for you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And but I had never done a job like that.
Right.
That is different.
It is.
But I love it. I love it.
The Dragonfly is actually a great venue.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
It's very personal.
It is.
You've got it's very comfortable. They're
It
sitting
is.
on couches, and
Yeah.
everybody's just kind of sitting around doing their thing, and it's very artsy.
It is. It
Reminds
is.
me of Greenwich Village,
Yeah,
New
it
York
does have
kind
that.
of thing.
Yeah, that's
It's got that
good.
kind of vibe about it.
It does.
And so that's cool. I'm looking forward to it because we're going there on December the 18th of this year with the Turbulence Society.
I'll have to get up there and see that
And
too.
I'm looking forward to that. We're basically playing a lot at your old stomping grounds, the
Yeah.
Brackett Cedar Park.
Yeah, I played so many
And
shows.
that's my home away from home now. I love Brackett Cedar Park.
Yeah,
And,
I spent a long time there.
there are people driving from 2.5 hours away to come see us down there. And if you ever get people to come there, they love it.
Oh, it's a
They
great.
love it. It's good food.
Some of my best memories in music business were at Brackett Cedar Park.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's still the same as, it's been 35, maybe 40 years since I
Yeah.
played there. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
you guys were playing there in Peeler's Mill when
Yeah.
I was working for John T-Tac.
Yeah.
And Mr. Don, actually, I'll
Yep.
tell you this story about Don Rossman real quick. We left out of Dublin, Georgia, and blew a tire on our bus on a tandem on the back. And our next job, that was on a Saturday, and we had the Sunday off. And our next job was going to be in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh, man.
So we had to go up those West Virginia mountains with one tandem and a lot of weight on the back of
Right.
that thing. And we went to Brackett Cedar Park and stayed that.
Slept there.
Yeah, and slept there. And when I got up on Sunday afternoon, before we left out Sunday night, because we were leaving out for the night because it was going to be a long night,
Right.
Mr. Don had called Okie
Yep.
and had Okie send somebody up there on a Sunday to put a $135 tire on that bus. I never will forget it. He wouldn't take the money.
That's
he would
Don.
not.
That's
he
Don.
didn't know me no more than he knew anybody, but he done that for me.
That's the kind of guy he was. I worked up there for him for a long time, and his whole family,
Good people.
Good people.
They're good people.
Really good people. I'm glad you told that story. He was always really good and kind to me. He's a good guy.
And everybody loved him.
They did.
Yeah.
They really did.
Everybody loved him. You could tell that by the crowds you guys played too.
Man.
You guys were playing to 300-400 people sometimes up there.
That was fun.
Really.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And, for it to be in Kaiser, he kept it under control pretty good too.
Yeah.
I felt pretty safe up there most of the time.
Well, that's one of the things I love about it now, just to show you how full circle all that's come. So I'm playing in a band now, and we're ethnically mixed.
Yes, y'all are. Yeah.
We're all over the place. That's why we call it the Turbulent Society.
Right, yeah.
And now the crowds up there, there are just as many blacks as there are whites.
Which will you?
There's Mexicans that people you would never have seen in the 70s
when I
in
played
Kaiser.
there.
Yeah,
when I played there,
that would never have happened.
No, that would not.
So I love it. I love it for that.
I think it's
great.
And there again, that's musicians care about musicians. They don't see a whole lot past being a musician.
No.
It's,
and that's the way it should be.
It should be. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They make jerks in every shape, color, and size. So I mean,
Absolutely.
So that's pretty good. Well, I know you're a busy man, and I do appreciate you taking the time to do this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Been a lot of fun. It's a great story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What you just heard was Ric Delozier and violinist Diana Nechaevia, Brogue Sonata, Opus number 9. Shortly after doing this podcast with Rick, I got a message that he was ill, very sick. And I'm just hoping that everyone who listens to this podcast will send prayers, encouragement, and love to Rick. Reach out to him if you know him. And thank you for listening.